I just, I just, I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 76 of the Speak My Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious, grateful, and hopefully healthy host, Greg Lacey. Like we always do about this time, I do hope that this episode is reaching you all in good health. Hope that you're still taking the proper precautions that we continue to battle this coronavirus. And aside from that, if this is your first time, I usually start the episodes with this, but if this is your first time listening to the Speak My Peace podcast, welcome. If this is not, welcome back. I am glad that I'm able to retain your listenership. And for the new listeners, hopefully I am able to retain your listenership. I can't stress enough how important it is that you all continue to tune in each and every week to the Speak My Peace podcast. It definitely is the deciding and motivating factor for me to decide to keep on going. I mean, we 76 episodes in and I'm still here speaking to myself, but y'all keep listening, so we're gonna keep on rocking out. Again, back to what I was speaking about. Hope that you all are still healthy. Hope that this episode reaches you all in good health. I know that this past week we're just coming off of Thanksgiving break, so many of us may have finally went to go see family, may have gathered with friends, may have gathered with larger groups than we may have had been gathering with in the past 8 or 9 months. And as a result, we put our, I say we because I'm guilty of it as well. We put our health at risk just because of the fact that this coronavirus is still out there. Especially if we didn't take the proper precautions as far as social distancing when we're gathering people, masking up and things like that. I can speak for myself. I had every intention to mask up around my family. Despite how weird it looked, I told myself, or not how weird it looked, how weird it may have seemed. I told myself going into this weekend or this past week that, even though I may personally feel uncomfortable, I'm still going to do it just to protect myself. And I was probably masked up maybe 30% of this past weekend. I'm going to go see my family. Granted, it wasn't a large gathering in comparison to how large of a gathering we usually have for Thanksgiving, but it was a pretty decent size considering it was 12 of us in total. And then also take into account that I have not seen any of these people since the beginning of the year or this time last year. So when we take all the things into account, I did put myself and put others at risk by placing myself in that situation and not taking the proper precautions. But I will say that I am positive that I was not purposefully negligently trying to put my family at risk, and I know that they didn't have the same intentions for me. So because of that, I was able to be at ease in those situations and not really worry myself too much about that. But the fact of the matter is, it was still kind of ignorant decision on my behalf. But I'm the type of person, I'm very stubborn. When I make my mind about something, I want to do something, I want to do it. And that's that. And it was literally just on a whim week before a decision I made. But coming out of it, I'm definitely glad that I did make the decision. I'm definitely glad that I was able to see my family. I'm one of the few people during this entire quarantine that's actually been quarantining. I stayed with my girlfriend during this entire time. The only people we've seen was our parents and our siblings. And this was the first time that I've seen anyone else outside of that. So it definitely felt good. I'm lying. A couple months ago, I did help a friend move to Georgia. But outside of that, it definitely felt good just to be around family. I know right now it's a lot of us are dealing with just personal mental issues. Not mental issues. Personal mental trauma, just because of you may need that affectionate love that you may get from being around family, that warmness that you get from being around family or being around close friends, and a lot of us are missing that. And when you're used to something like that and you miss it, it definitely takes a toll on you. I'm not one, but I definitely did notice how much I needed to be around those people. I won't be doing it anytime again soon because we know that the cases and everything is surging. But I am glad that I did get that out the way, despite it not being, despite it being against my better judgment. So if you were in the same situation as me this past week, hopefully you and your family are okay. Hopefully your health is okay. Another thing that, like, in a result of all that, obviously I had to, because I live with someone, I had to get tested just to make sure that I'm not putting anyone else at risk and spreading it. If I did contract the virus or did have the virus prior to that, the last thing I want to do is continue to affect people. So I've been in here quarantining by myself. My girl's been at her parents. You know the weird thing about this coronavirus and like trying to figure out whether or not you're positive, and not to make light of two deadly things, but it feels like you're waiting for the result for like a AIDS or HIV test. Like it's definitely weird. It's like I went and got my test and I'm just waiting for the results. But like if I test positive, like my girl's not coming back home anytime soon. If I test positive, like I have to have to contact every single person that I saw this past week and like, hey, go get tested, because I got tested, and it's weird. Trying to make light of something that's serious, but despite me trying to make light of it, me trying to joke about it, this thing is still out there. This second surge, this second wave that we're going through right now is definitely ramping up. I think I saw on the news this morning that yesterday was the second highest death toll that we've had within the past year, which is very telling. Just considering the fact that we're heading into the holidays in the second wave, and then we're breaking records with 2 more holidays planned. So, as we go forward, I hope that you all are still taking the proper precautions to stay out of harm's way and keep your people out of harm's way, because that is continuously, as I've been stressing for the past couple of months, that is what's important. Not affecting people and not putting people in harm's way and not affecting their livelihoods. With that being said, I guess greater news is on the horizon because they are getting closer to the issuance of vaccines. I know next week, I believe, the UK will be getting their doses of vaccines, and then from there, other countries will follow. I'm not an anti-vaccine person. I'm not an anti any of that, and so I'm not going to use my platform to spew like information to try to get you all to stray away from getting the vaccines. I can only speak for myself. I'm not getting the vaccine. If I test positive for COVID-19, I may think about it, but I'm not getting the vaccine. I think that despite still being under quarantine, despite still being under stay-at-home orders, one thing that has put my mind at ease is knowing that I have gone this long without contracting it, despite me, going to the grocery store every other day, despite me doing things like seeing my siblings for the first time, despite me just being out and about. There's so many ways that I could have contracted it. The percentage of me contracting it were very low because I was protecting myself, like with a mask and sanitizer and all that stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, there was still a chance for me contracting it. And the one thing that has put my mind at ease as of late is, and y'all gonna hate me for this because y'all know as much as I talk down on this man, I call this man an idiot. Number 45 actually said something that I agree with very early on about this, just about going forward, about the coronavirus and how people will live with it. Basically, it will be like the flu, and we would just have to learn how to deal with it and adjust to it. And the reason why I am making this comparison, the reason why I agree with him, is because I truly believe that this will be like the flu. It's never going to go away. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to eradicate or erase this from our lives. But we just have to do what we can do to make sure that we're protecting ourselves from it. And I don't get flu shots. I've gotten a flu miss like twice while I was in the military, but I don't get flu shots. And not because I'm against vaccines, but I've never had the flu, and I felt like there was never any need for it. And I feel the same way about the coronavirus vaccine. I have not contracted the coronavirus yet, to my knowledge, and so I don't feel any need for it. Aside from that, some of the side effects from that from the vaccine is also terrible. Like, again, I'm not giving you all this information because I'm trying to stray you away from getting the vaccine, but I'm just relaying the information I read. Some of the side effects after you take the vaccine, for the next 2 days, you will experience muscle aches, joint pains. I think the other one was like a fever. Actually, I wrote it down. Yeah, it's fever, muscle aches, joint pains, and they are expected to last for a couple of days. That's not something I willingly want to go through. And so I am not going to do that. And just hearing that, it sounds like why would I put myself through that if I don't necessarily need it? And so as of right now, I don't believe I am going to take the vaccine. If anything changes in the future, I will let you all know and I'll report back any results from that. But as of right now, I don't plan on taking the vaccine. This is my last thing about the coronavirus to give you all. I told you all that I took my test today. I don't think I contracted it. If I did, I definitely have not experienced any symptoms yet. And so because of that, I hope that is all positive signs. But another thing with me personally in dealing with this coronavirus, another thing that puts my mind at ease is knowing that every morning I test myself. I push my body to the limits, and as a result, I'm able to see like what I'm able to do and how much my body is able to take. And because I have not seen any deterioration in my body since coming back home, I don't believe that I have contracted it. Like I ran the first day I came back, just because I came back from eating a lot of Thanksgiving food. I was like, I know I have to run extra hard this week. First day I ran since been around my family, I've ran the best mile splits I've ran since maybe summertime. Summertime last year actually. And then even after that, I continue to improve. I improved yesterday, and then today I didn't run, but I've been seeing improvements. And so as a result, I know how my body feels, and I know how much I'm able to push my body. And because of that, I don't think that I've been affected by it. Hopefully that's the case. Y'all, if y'all need to send your prayers up. But I am definitely in good spirits. I haven't experienced any side effects. And I think that's definitely a good sign. This is, as I said, that was the last thing that I had in regard to coronavirus. Make sure that you are still protecting yourselves as we continue to battle this thing. Read up on the vaccines. Be informed. Be informed about everything that's in it. Be informed about the side effects. Be informed about the likelihood or the side effects of you not taking it. Just be informed about everything, because we're definitely living in a very tumultuous time and a very crazy time. And I don't have to tell you all for you to know that, but that is what it is. I feel like the beginning of this episode was kind of dark, so we're going to get off of that. In a more positive note, I want to start this episode off shouting out Sarah Fuller. 2 episodes ago, episode 74, I started that episode out with shouting out 2 amazing women. And so I'm going to continue this trend as women continue to break these gender barriers. Sarah Fuller, who was the goalkeeper for the women's soccer team at Vanderbilt, suited up this past week for the Vanderbilt football team in a game against Missouri. Now, this was the first woman to suit up and participate in a Power 5 college football game. So that within itself is huge. And for those of you who don't follow college football too much, the significance with the Power 5 is the Power 5 are the 5. There's so many conferences in Division I football. And within all of those conferences, the Power 5 are the 5 most elite conferences. And this woman suited up for a conference game for one of the teams. The circumstances surrounding how she got the opportunity was that their kicker, the special teams kicker and the kicker for the Vanderbilt team, tested positive for coronavirus. And so they were inactive this past week for the game. And as a result, they had to quarantine for 10 days. So they missed last week's game, and I think they're probably going to miss this week's game. But so the Vanderbilt football team had to scramble and look for another keeper. And I don't know what the deciding factor was that led to them deciding to go with Sarah, but they decided to go with her. And even though she suited up, it wasn't a promise that she was going to actually play in the game, but she did. And I think that's huge. A couple weeks ago when I was speaking about the two women I spoke about, you know, the significance in that, and one of the things, the quotes I remember I said in regarding that is that we have to continue to give individuals of marginalized groups, whether that group be a race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual preference, we have to continue to give these marginalized people these type of opportunities. Give them an inch so they can take the whole foot or even more. And the significance in this and in previous and just anything when you give someone of a marginalized group opportunity like that is because they're prepared no matter what. Now I don't it kind of sucks because Vanderbilt is not that good of a football team this year, and so she suited up and they got blown out. So it wasn't like the focus around the game wasn't that significant. The focus was more that she actually suited up and participated in the game. Now, I believe they're retaining her this week. I think she's still on the roster for another game when they're playing against Georgia. Georgia is one of the top, I believe, 10 schools in college football, also part of the Power 5 conference. And they're suiting up against them this week. I don't know if she's going to participate, but they are planning on potentially bringing her back to also kick in that game. And so huge shout out to Sarah Fuller. I think as we continue to get ripples and things like this and women breaking barriers, it's going to make the world a better place, because we're doing away with gender norms. We're doing away with barriers that has been intact for 400 plus years. And we are truly progressing in the way of making this world an equal place. Granted, I'm not naive. I understand that this world is far from being equal, because I'm a black man, so you don't got to tell me. I know firsthand. But the reason why I like things like this is because the entire world, not just the United States, have been so stuck in their misogynistic and patriarchal ways that the opportunities given to women have been very few, and there's been various restrictions upon women in whatever career field or whatever avenue they are taking because of their gender. And we know the tropes that come along with men and women and what men in this country and what powerful men in this country think of women. And so to see something like this and see her break a barrier like football is the most brutal, the most hard knock, the most ballsiest sport. And then we have this woman suiting up for a game in one of the most elite college conferences. I think ripples like that. I think ripples like the woman who became the general manager of the Marlins. I don't know why I said Marliners in that episode. No, I don't know what I said. I think I said Florida Marliners, Miami Marlins. And we think about the woman who became the academy commander. I don't know why I'm blanking on their names. I got their names written down right here. I'm tripping. Kembe and Sydney Barber. I don't know why I was like paraphrasing. But Kenny, when I was speaking about them in 2 episodes ago, this is what I was talking about. I don't know if there's any direct correlation from Sydney Barber and Ken to Sarah Fuller, but as we continue to see examples like this and we continue to see them excelling in those positions that they were always shut out, or they have been shut out for many years, it inspires many more beyond them to also take a stab at that and also have aspirations. Like I speak about it a lot, about no matter what you agree or disagree about with Barack Obama, what Barack Obama did is gave aspiration for many black people within this country. I also spoke about the fact that during the time that Barack Obama served as president from 2008 to 2016, I had a younger brother that was born in 2010. And so from 2010 until 2016, he has only known a black president. Granted, most kids go to school, grade school around 6. So by the time Obama was leaving office, he was entering grade school. And so he was learning about the presidents. But from the time he was born until the time he got to school, he's only known a black president. And so his aspiration and his dreams, if he ever wants to be a president, doesn't seem like they're not attainable. He knows they're attainable because he's seen somebody else that looked like him in that position. And so this is why representation matters, whether it's skin, whether it's gender, whether it's sexual preference, whether it's religion, whether it's hair color, wherever the case may be. Representation matters because it further alongs people and further alongs generations to aspire to be in those positions that you work so hard to get into, and you open doors for many other people. So huge shout out to women. I know this world is crazy. I know how misogynistic this world is. I, for one, have been a participant in the misogyny, but as I mature, I try to do better. I try to be better in championing women and treating women equally and fairly, and just not stereotyping women as I would not want to be stereotyped as a black man, because that's important. You can't ask for something and expect for something in this world and not be giving it out. Which conveniently takes me to my next topic in regards to this Dave Chapelle Unforgivable special. This past week, Dave Chapelle released I want to call it a special, but it's not really a special. This past week, and let me say, what Dave Chapelle has been doing, I'm a big fan of Dave Chapelle, period. But what Dave Chapelle has been doing since we've been in quarantine, I'm a huge fan of. I guess you can call them specials. It's not really comedies. It's really just him just openly venting to the world. I know that he's hosting private comedy shows on his in Ranch in Ohio, but in between those comedy shows he's doing, he blesses us with these short films or these short excerpts of stuff he's working on in between time. One of the most standout ones was the 846 in response to George Floyd. And then this one that he just released, and this is my what to watch, obviously. My what to watch for this week, and I'm giving you all in the middle of the episode, I'll give it to you all later, is Dave Chapelle Unforgiven. It's on his Instagram page. But just to get into this and the reason why I brought it up, and speaking about just giving people opportunities, and you can't give out what you're not given. And you can't expect me, just harping back on the point I just made in regards to Sarah Fuller and just the world in general, that we can't expect certain things when we're not giving out certain things. It's just the world doesn't work like that. But anyways, this video Dave Chapelle released titled Unforgiven is him speaking about his journey, being a comedian, not being paid, being taken advantage of, and just the evil of the entertainment industry. 2 weeks ago, I told you all my what to watch was Dave Chapelle on SNL. He spoke about the events following him deciding to host SNL. He said that he called the writer, or he agreed with Lauren Michaels, the creator of SNL, and said that he will host it. He said literally the day following that, his show, Chapelle Show, was up on HBO and Netflix. Me personally, I remember being happy and seeing that, not really knowing the specifics and how I got there and the pay and everything like that. But I remember that morning I found out Chapelle was on Netflix. I sent it to my group chat like, hey, this is here. And everybody was excited. Everybody went to go find it. Everybody went to go watch it. I know I've personally watched a couple episodes. I used to watch episodes as I prepared to record my podcast. But as I found out from watching this special, it was put up on both platforms unbeknownst to him. Basically, Comedy Central trying to take advantage of the opportunity and cashing in on something that they're not paying for. He's not receiving a single dime, as he spoke about in Unforgiven. He's not receiving a single dime from the Chapelle Show. Any of you all remember the history of the Chapelle Show? One of the greatest comedy shows ever. It was definitely a significant show, a significant part of our culture in the early or mid 2000s, just because of what that show detailed, what that show talked about, what that show covered. In our culture, man, that was like top tier. And still to this day, it's still a classic show. Many of the skits included in that show are timeless. It's referenced all the time, whether it's in just like passing conversations with friends, whether it's in pop culture or in music and movies and things like that. What he did and what he created and what he shifted was monumental, and he only gave us 2 seasons. But to get back to my point that I'm making about the special, he spoke about just them keying in and owning in on the fact that he was going to be on SNL, and now he's a big, he's drawing a lot of attention to himself, and so they try to cash in on that. And he spoke about how, for years he's been trying to get them to pay him. Well, I kind of get off topic, but you all remember what happened to Chapelle Show and then being at the top tier and then being at the top. And in the midst of all this, he walked away from the show. If you want reasons for why he walked away from the show, you can. He has spoken about it many a time. I'm not going to paraphrase anything because I think it's very important about stuff like that, especially when as much as they try to drag his name through the mud for him walking away. I think it's better to hear specifically from the source of why they did something like that. But he walked away from the show, and it was big news because a lot of us, it came out of nowhere. A lot of us was surprised, and we just didn't know what the future of what Dave Chapelle was going to be. Fast forward to here, 2020. He's not getting paid a single dime for the re-airs. He's not getting paid a single dime for being on streaming platforms. But here is Comedy Central taking advantage of the fact that they don't have to pay him and cashing in on the fact that they can put it up and people will watch it because his name, because he's doing something so monumental as SNL does, it draws a lot of attention to people. Whether whoever the host is, people are interested in SNL. And so when you have somebody like Dave Chapelle hosting SNL, people who are introduced to him for the first time, they want to find out they're going to want to find out his history. And when you dig up Dave Chappelle's history, one of the brightest moments in his career is the Chapelle Show. He created the Chapelle Show. And so when you think about that and you think about these companies, you think about them trying to take advantage of it, the reason why I'm speaking about it here in this podcast is because I'm a big champion of that. Whether it's Dave Chapelle, whether it's me, whether it's Joe Budden leaving the Spotify, whether it's these independent rap artists, whether it's Rich Paul who created the Clutch Sports Management Group. I think in this world, I think in every industry, I champion people owning their shit. Excuse my language, but that's what I champion. I'm a fan of that. That is my aspirations. That is what I'm working towards. And hearing Dave Chappelle speak about these companies like HBO, he even went on to speak about how he tried to pitch HBO, or he tried to pitch, prior to taking the Comedy Central, he tried to pitch HBO Chappelle Show, and they told him they didn't need him. And now here we are in 2020, and they have it show up on their streaming platform. This is why I always preach, and this is why I love what Nipsey Hussle's career and what he always preached about ownership. We as black people, we as marginalized people, we are people who come from places or come from communities that are underserved. It's important that we continue to dictate what we put out to the world. Me and my girlfriend, we have this conversation frequently about people, everybody pushing this agenda to how you have to be your own boss, to where no one So my argument, so the problem is everybody's pushing the agenda to be their own boss, but the reality is not everyone's going to be their own boss, and we frequently have this conversation. We don't agree with each other, but we frequently have this conversation because she's of the point of that, yeah, everyone should be their own boss, but we should also in media, we should also push the fact that it's also okay to be a worker. Like we shouldn't, because everyone has these entrepreneurial aspirations, they should not talk down on someone who wants to work a 9 to 5. And I agree with her, but I also agree that for this reason, like I'm detailing right here, this is why we should aspire to be our own bosses. Yes, the reality is eventually people are going to have to work for someone. My aspirations are to not working with someone, but right now at 27 years old, I am working for someone. And where I disagree with her in that, it's not really a disagreement, is that we just have different perspectives on the issue, because we agree with the same thing, but I lean towards one side more than she leans towards that side. But we kind of agree with the concepts, if that makes any sense. But the reason why I agree with that is because I come from a place where I know the resources, we lacked resources. I know people who come from places worse than mine who lack even less resources, if that makes sense. By what I mean by that is that despite me coming from a community that lacked resources, there was still in close proximity Los Angeles, California, which had tons of which is resource rich. And so that's kind of like me winning a geography lottery. But I know there's some people in the backwoods of Georgia who may not have the opportunity. We may say, Atlanta, it may be the Atlanta of opportunity, but in some places in Georgia, Atlanta is way too far. I know some people who may come from Louisiana, and they may not have the opportunity at all. They may have to go north to New York. They may have to go west to, is it west or east? They might have to go east to Atlanta, or they might have to fly all the way across the country and go to Los Angeles. Where I'm getting at here is that people of underprivileged, and it's not even just people of underprivileged communities and people that lack resources. I think people, period, should aspire to own things. Like, we think about all the things that we purchase. We think about all the things that we subscribe to. We think about all the things that has been shoved in our face from the time of birth. Is that these brands, we've been conditioned to purchase and continue to have loyalty to brands and companies. But I don't think that we should always aspire to work or to build someone else's dream. I think at some point we have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, in a sense that, okay, this person did this and I'm working for this company, but at one point this company was just an idea. Why can't I also think of that idea? Or why can't I also have a version of this company, but to my liking? And why can't I run that? I think that when we have ideas and we have aspirations like that, I think this is what Whitney Houston meant by, I believe the children are the future. I don't think that she meant that, children should grow up and work and be workers for people and help build other people's dreams. I think that she meant that she dreamt, or she saw that the children at that time would eventually run the world. And this is why I'm always a champion of people like Top Dog, of Top Dog Entertainment. This is why I'm a champion of Dr. Dre. This is why I'm a champion of Rich Paul. This is why I'm a champion of people who continue to write their own stories rather than look for handouts from these companies. Like, I don't know if y'all remember when I spoke about Rich Paul and the whole ordeal with Rich Paul, but Rich Paul pissed off a lot of people when he started Clutch Sports Group, because he started taking all the biggest athletes. Like, right now on the Rich Paul wing, he has LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That, I don't like, Clutch Sports Group has a lot of athletes, but just those two right there are two of the best in the sport right now. And people are pissed off because Rich Paul did not go to college to people are pissed off because Rich Paul did not go to college, and he did not kiss ass, and he did not shake the hands that he needed to shake to gain those athletes, as it has been in the past. Someone may have become an agent to Kobe Bryant, or how someone may have became an agent to Michael Jordan. Even thinking with Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is the biggest star out of college, out of high school that we've seen in a decade. And people are pissed off because, one, he was being represented by one of his family members, and for two, he ended up choosing a black lady to take the task as his agent. And people were pissed off because we continue to see these people take control of their careers and doing away with the norms that have been set in place for so many years. I am always going to be a champion of people writing their own destiny. I am continuing going to be a champion of people creating their own avenue. My aspirations with this podcast, when I first started this podcast, it wasn't just, build out a company and have aspirations to do any other things. It was literally just me wanting to speak my piece, and I achieved that. And as things continue to grow and I continue to grow my brand, I started thinking the bigger picture of other things or other opportunities that I have created for myself by opening this lane. And I still, despite everything, I still believe that one day I should be running a company. I should have employees. And it goes back to what I was just talking about how me and my girlfriend continue to have this conversation about how there shouldn't be this narrative in the world about how everyone should be CEOs and not everyone should be employees. The only reason why I agree with that is because I don't agree with talking down on people. I don't care what position you are in. I don't care what walk of life you may have. I don't believe that because you're doing something that someone is doing something wrong because they're not doing what you're doing. And so in that sense, I agree with her. But where I disagree with her is that I believe that everyone should feel like they can run what they are a part of, if that kind of makes sense. Like if I'm an employee at Nike and I'm just an associate, a store associate, a salesperson, or whatever the case may be, I should have aspirations of being that store owner or being the manager of that specific store. Because it's like I see what I'm doing and I see what steps I need to take in order to achieve that. So why would I be content with remaining constant in this same place, if that makes sense? I should have aspirations to step outside of that, or I should have aspirations to climb up the corporate ladder to take over that person's position. If I'm a store leader or I'm a manager at Nike, I should have aspirations of one day becoming a CEO, if that's the long-term goal. Because what am I doing? Why am I here if I'm content with staying in the same place and not climbing a corporate ladder? If I'm in the military, and it's different from the military because how you get promoted is test-based and time served. But if I'm in the military and I've been in for 20 years, I should have aspirations of being the chief of that branch of military, because I've given so much of myself, I've given so much of my free time that I should be able to now run this, because this is how dedicated I am. And again, this is arguing to her point, and I'm probably gonna have to bring her on a later episode just so we can actually discuss and y'all can see what I'm going, because I can't argue with somebody. I just can't. So I'm paraphrasing it. It's not even paraphrasing. It's me thinking what I believe from her point. But even getting back to her point, off of the topic that I was just talking about in the military, and me thinking that, I've been here for so long, in that same sense, not everybody can attain that top position. So obviously people are going to have to be workers. So I kind of go back and forth with that. But I do believe that everyone should have that entrepreneurial or CEO aspirations, because if you don't have that, what exactly is pushing you? If you're working for a media agency, you should feel like if you spend enough time in that, you learn the ins and outs of it, you should be able to open up your own media agency. And the one thing I like about the resources available in 2020 to us is you can start a business right now. Whatever business that decides to be. It can be a commerce business. It can be a service business. It can be whatever you decide to do. You can start a business right now, and all you literally have to do just to get the introduction to how to begin it is open up YouTube or start a forum on the internet and get advice from people who have been in their shoes. The resources that are available are so plentiful and so accessible in 2020 that it should be I'm not gonna say it should be a walk in the park to run a business, but at least to begin one or start one, it should be a cakewalk, because we have so many resources available to us, and we have to take advantage of that. Think about the fact that we are like the beginning stages of social media. Like, social media is still relatively young. The internet is not that old. The internet is 2 decades old. Yeah, it seems old, but it's still not that old. Like, what the internet is now and what it will be in 20 years, it'd be drastically different. And so when we think about the things like the social media, and we think about how people have began to start careers, people have been able to launch brands, people have began to take advantage of having that access to having those impressions to people all around the world, we have to take advantage of that. Especially people who look like me, especially people who come from the background that I come from. We can't continue to look towards these old guard of the avenues that we want to go in, whether that's school. One of the topics that wasn't covered in this episode is kind of too late to cover now, but Google. Whether that's school, we have to stop believing that in order to do. Let me give y'all a secret. In the job I work in, I work for one of the leading media agencies in the entire world. And the job that I'm currently working, I didn't need to go to school for it. I'm not gonna lie to none of y'all. I'm very good at my job. I may not be interested in my job, but I am very good at it. And that, call that me to my own horn, whatever the case you want to call it. But I am very good at my job. But I did not need to go to school for this, especially not for 4 years. But these companies and these agencies, they tell us that unless you have a degree, you're worthless to them. And I don't know how those two things correlate. I've been working now for a year, and no one has ever asked for, no one has ever asked for or seen my diploma. It doesn't matter. I couldn't went into the job that I am now straight out the Air Force, and I probably would have been more effective just because of the fact that I didn't take so much time off in between the career changes. But same thing with the Air Force. Like, when I was in the Air Force, I was a paralegal. This was straight out of high school. I didn't go to college. The only thing that was required for that is I went to school for 3 months. Same thing with other people who are still in the Air Force and have the same job. I mean, one of my friends, she has been in since we went in together, and we both had the same jobs. And she's still holding that position. And she has been, since she has been in, being getting promoted quick, fast, in a hurry. She's been doing it in less time than required every time that she got promoted. She didn't go to school. She didn't need that to go to school, but we were paralegals at the age of 18 and 19. And think about the fact that even when I got out of the military, I didn't want to be a paralegal when I got to the military, but I kind of thought about it. And even looking into that, like, I had no hope of becoming a paralegal outside again when I got out of the military, even though I have 4 years of experience in the military. Granted, civilian and military law is different, but the practices, the everything that we do, the requirements, the details within the job, the intricate details of the job, I'm pretty sure they are very same. I doubt there are any vast differences other than the law that we follow. But I say that to say that even if I wanted to pursue that career when I got out, I would have to continue to go to school before I walked into a civilian law office and continue to practice that or continue to fill that position. Even though I have 4 years of experience, it's just me speaking about this is putting everything into perspective for you all. The old guard is things that people tell us that we have to do in order to meet something. If you want to become a big singer or become a big rapper, you have to sign to a big record label. If not, you won't do that. We've seen time and time again that's not true, especially now in the SoundCloud era. You want to become a comedian, you need to do the time serve and go to these shows. Make sure you sell out a crowd. That's not true. We are seeing a wave of people who are now considered mainstream comedians who have started their career on Instagram. Their audience was the world. It wasn't just one venue. Granted, those comedians and the comedians like Dave Chappelle are different in their agendas and in their tasks and their jobs. But the fact of the matter is, someone looked up to Dave Chappelle at a certain age and wanted to do the same thing that he was doing. And the resource for them to do that was literally opening up their phone and being themselves. Same thing with, it's so many other different avenues. And I hate that every time I bring up stuff like this, I go straight into entertainment. But that is the fact of the matter. Y'all know how I feel about basketball. I don't believe that basketball players need to go to college. But the people who are in place, the old guard, the commissioner of the NBA, the commissioner of the NCAA, they told these young athletes that, you have to come through here and we have to make money off of you before you go to the next step. Granted, that's been taken away in the next couple of years and people are finding other loopholes like going overseas and other things like that. But the fact of the matter is, these athletes are being told that they had to contribute to this damn modern day. I'm not going to say that. They had to contribute to this thing called the NCAA prior to going to making these and signing these $1 million contracts, which we have seen time and time again, they are not true. And so in closing, I will say this. Whether you have aspirations to become an entrepreneur or CEO or not, I think that we have to continue going forward to challenge the old guards, the old standards that were set in place prior to us. Because we've seen time and time again that these rules and these standards were meant to be broken. And if you're one of those people who have the aspirations to, take things to your own hand, own everything that you do, start up your own business, start up your own LLC, start up your own service, whatever the case may be, do that. Do the proper research you need to do before you start it. But I think we need more people like this, because I think the wider this field become of people doing things independently, the less effective those old guards are. And that's what I like to see, because we know who are running. We know the type of people who are running these companies. I don't have to say it, but we know who's running them. We know who's running the top advertising brand. We know who's running PG&E. We know who's running Sony Entertainment. We know who's running Interscope. We know who's running the Chicago Bulls. We know who's running the Dallas Cowboys. We know who's running the NFL. We know who's running the NBA. As we continue to challenge these things, we continue to break these barriers. Ask Sarah Fuller, ask Sidney Barber, ask King Ung, as many other people prior to them that paved the way to them. As we continue to break these barriers for these people, break these barriers that were set in place, it's going to open up a lot of opportunity for people who don't have these resources. And that's my closing. Huge shout out to LeVar Ball. His son, LeAngelo Ball, got signed to the Detroit Pistons today. He now has all 3 kids in the NBA, which he told people he would do 3 or 4 years ago. Well, LeAngelo's not really in the NBA. He has to earn his contract. It's a non-guaranteed. But LeVar Ball is another one of those people who challenged those old guards and broke those barriers and did things his own way. That's really all I have for you all. Keep striving, keep pushing everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. It's the end of the year. Let's end it on a good note. I know it's been a tumultuous year. The end of the year recap That episode is definitely coming. But for the time being, man, let's end this year on a good note. Again, my what to watch for this week, go to Dave Chappelle's Instagram at Dave Chappelle and watch his Unforgiven special or stand-up. I don't know what it's really called, but definitely watch that. Get inspired by it. Learn from it. Do your research. Because I definitely am. I'm definitely charged up. My best kept secret for this week is Back at It by Kembe X, featuring Ice Cold Bishop and Ab. So once again, my best kept secret for this week is Back at It by Kembe X, featuring Absol and Ice Cold Bishop. Y'all stay safe. Thank you for tuning in to Speak on Peace podcast. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, rating, commenting, do all that. I definitely appreciate it. Can't stress enough how much I appreciate it. That's really all I have for you all this week. Again, stay safe. I'm out.